Now, several French ministers have disclosed their assets publicly today in accordance with a deadline set by President Francois Hollande. France's former budget minister Jérôme Cahuzac, once the man responsible for fighting tax evasion, was charged with tax fraud earlier this month when he admitted to having an undisclosed Swiss bank account containing an estimated 600,000 euros. The assets of more than 30 ministers, including the Prime Minister Jean-Marc Ayrault, were to be published at 3 p.m. GMT or 8:30 p.m. Sri Lankan time on the French government website. Close scrutiny is expected to fall on several ministers suspected of having significant wealth, including Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius. Health and Social Affairs Minister Marisol Touraine had earlier stated that she owns about 1.4 million euros in assets, mostly properties that she owns in Paris. The declarations are part of a package of reforms put forward by President Francois Hollande that includes a crackdown on foreign tax havens and a new independent authority to monitor the assets of politicians and senior officials, as well as potential conflicts of interest. A new special prosecutor's office will also target tax fraud and corruption. Although Sri Lankan law also states that public representatives must declare their assets and liabilities, is this law being enforced? The decision taken by the French president to have his ministers declare their assets is an important decision that will encourage transparency and discourage them from engaging in bribery or corruption. It is only in Sri Lanka that this law is not being enforced. If this law is being enforced, then our ministers and MPs would not do the wrongs that they are engaging in now. They will be discouraged from bribery and corruption. They fearlessly do these things with impunity because there is no inquiry. The declaration of assets and liabilities is not enforced on them, and the people do not have the right to information.
A continuing expose by a group of journalists called International Consortium for Investigative Journalism. They have been looking at some 2.5 million pieces of documents, secret accounts of senior politicians and public officials in over 100 countries. They have said that the details of figures in Sri Lanka will be released fairly soon. So either we can wait for the expose or we can get members of cabinet to publicly divulge their assets and liabilities.
It is clear to see how rapidly their assets increase when they come into politics. Unfortunately, we do not see this happening in our country, because if this were to happen in our country, the majority of them would have to be imprisoned. When this is enforced in Sri Lanka as well, the people will be able to see what they have been doing since they came into politics. The law on declaring assets and liabilities exists in our country as well. The wealth of their closest family should also be included in this. But we know that in the recent past, ministers bought property under the names of their drivers and clerks. The law on declaring assets and liabilities has become a jest in our country because there is no process of inquiry. There is no process of inquiry to see if this is happening or not.
අපේ නීතිය 1975 සිට නැවත 1988 සංශෝධනය කර වත්කම් හා බැරකම්.
There is a law in our country since 1975, amended in 1988, where all ministers, the President and parliamentarians must declare their assets and liabilities. Senior officials must declare assets to their respective higher-ups and judges to the Judicial Service Commission. Unfortunately, the reason that this does not bear any result is that the public have no right to requisition those declarations of assets and liabilities and analyze them. There has been no inquiry regarding any of the key personalities in the country. I think the only instance where inquiry has been made is into the Chief Justice, who was recently removed from her position. Now, should ministers in this country follow the lead of their French counterparts and declare their assets? Now, we here at News First conducted a public poll on this matter. We informed our TV and radio audiences to submit their views to us via SMS to 7788 by typing news space Y for yes and news space Y for no. Now, we also asked our audiences to submit their views to us on our website, www.newsfirst.lk. Now, these were the results that we received from that poll. As you can see, an overwhelming 96.52% of responses were for yes, our ministers should declare their assets, whereas 3.48% said no, our ministers should not be declaring their assets.